But they're supposedly they took Mom's car. The lady that lives here, they're in her car somewhere.
Okay.
Supposedly.
I did go missing. I said I'm not with a fugitive. I'm not abducted. I'm not missing. I'm not kidnapped. I'm about to be 18. I'm literally what's it called in Ohio is emancipated because I was living in an independent living house.
Child abductions and trafficking are a real issue in the U.S. Every day, it seems more kids disappear. But as with many things, the truth isn't always what it seems.
That's kind of I read it as I'm coming down here. It's kind of a weird one.
Turns out, the victim is in fact the killer.
In Arizona, in a drive-by. I don't know who it was. Also committed 2 arsons in Arizona in the middle.
Let me tell you about a disturbing case.
He's been abducted from Ohio. And now this sweet old lady is missing. And your boyfriend runs off a gun. And you guys are fleeing to Mexico.
It's a true story of a missing teenager and a man suspected of taking her to Mexico. Welcome to the channel. Today, we probe into a relationship that turned deadly and led to heartbreaking consequences for everyone involved.
At this point, I sit down at the kitchen table and I'm looking at her and I'm like, what did you do? And she straight up told me she stopped her from being in the way of us being together. From there, we went, I don't know exactly what else she did. I confronted her about it, and she's like, I had to do it so we could be together.
From a family torn apart to a cross-country escape.
I've been to a couple Mexican restaurants. I've slept at a couple motels here and there. That's it.
Join us as we unfold what led to this tragedy. The story first made headlines on April 11th, 2023. The reports were dramatic. A man had kidnapped a 17-year-old girl and taken off to Mexico using his mother's car. And now, no one could locate his mother, Nicole Jones. That was the story all over the media. A young girl in danger, an older man on the run, and his missing mother. The story spread quickly. 17-year-old Caitlin Coons had only been missing for a few hours when the police listed her as a missing person, sharing her description with the public. She was about 160 centimeters tall, weighing around 50 kilograms, with chestnut hair and green eyes. When she was last seen, Caitlin was wearing a pink jacket and gray leggings. Authorities urged anyone with information about Caitlin or Jonathan not to approach them, but to contact the police instead. It didn't take long before media outlets, the public, and even activists joined the search, hoping to bring her home safely. But the question is, how it all started? Well, it all started with a welfare check.
What was her name again?
Nicole Jones.
Nicole Jones was missing, a 53-year-old woman whose 33-year-old son, Jonathan, still lived with her.
So
At first, I think it was the son that lived here with her.
okay.
And I heard say he would have been in his 20s, but that was... Time flies, I'd say at least 3-4 years ago.
Oh, okay. But you haven't seen him at all.
No, and you know the way these sit, you don't really see people.
Sure.
I just happened to... I'm having a lazy morning in my lazy boy reading the newspaper and I spotted the police car and I thought, oh, what's going on here?
Yeah, it's probably nothing, but we just have to check. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jonathan was a veteran on disability, while 17-year-old Caitlin was unemployed.
What about Jonathan?
No, he does not either.
Okay.
And he gets what's it called though? He was in the military, so he gets what's it called?
Disability?
Yes.
Okay, from the military. What branch was he in?
I do not know.
You don't know?
Nicole was a loving and compassionate mother.
His mom is like a cool type of mom. Like she likes to play card games, go on walks. You know, when we were trying to take her to Mexico.
But the question remains, what led the police to conduct a welfare check on Nicole Jones in the first place? Well, they were there because the missing 17-year-old Caitlin Coons messaged something right before she vanished. Caitlin's life hadn't been easy. She'd grown up in foster care, bouncing from place to place.
Well, that's just because I ended up in the system.
In the foster care system? How did you end up in foster care?
I don't really want to talk about it.
Okay.
By the time she was a teenager, she was living in a group home in Ohio, and she had a history of running away.
Were you missing at one point?
I was last year.
Okay.
This wasn't the first time she'd left without warning. Just before vanishing, Caitlin texted her caseworker at the group home. Her message was chilling. She claimed to have killed 2 people and burnt the house down and was now on the run.
There's the son took the woman's car with the girlfriend. Okay, the girlfriend down there reported to her caseworker that they killed some lady and burned her house.
It was a shocking statement coming from a 17-year-old girl, leaving everyone wondering if it was a cry for help or if it's true. Meanwhile, the police were also trying to reach Nicole Jones because the caseworker believes that one of her victims could be Nicole.
Has anybody seen her?
No. I've only seen a guy going in and out of there.
Calls went unanswered, and no one had seen her.
Well, I have all her phone numbers of people that live there, but it's her phone number.
Okay, but there's nothing listed when she moved in, like an emergency, contact this person, nothing like that?
No.
So the only way we're going to get in is knocking the door down.
When officers finally went to check on her, she was nowhere to be found. With Caitlin missing and Nicole unreachable, questions began piling up, and what started as a routine welfare check quickly spiraled into a story no one saw coming.
Is this the gentleman you've seen going in and out?
That looks familiar.
The police were left piecing together a complicated story. On one side, there was Caitlin Coons, a 17-year-old with a difficult past.
It can't upset me. Nothing upsets me.
So you said you guys were boyfriend and girlfriend?
Yes.
Her life was riddled with bad choices, and to top it all off, she never had the greatest of health.
So I ended up one day going out of the hospital and reading my file, and I asked the doctor, like, what happened, and he was like, oh, yeah, this happened to you.
Okay. I just have some more questions about you said you had an eating disorder earlier?
Yeah.
What kind? You said anorexia?
Yeah.
Okay. When did that start?
I've always had an eating disorder since I was younger, but I've been getting hospitalized really bad over it recently because...
She'd gone missing, again, but this time she had some connection to Jonathan Jones. Jonathan was no stranger to law enforcement. Jonathan Jones had already faced charges for his involvement with young girls. His record wasn't pretty, and knowing Caitlin was now in his company only raised the stakes. Caitlin could be in real danger. Caitlin may have been close to 18, but in the eyes of the law, she was still a child. Children at that age could be easily influenced, particularly by someone with experience manipulating younger people. Jonathan fit that profile, a man who knew how to take advantage of innocence.
What do you like about Jonathan?
I like that he's caring and understanding, and I feel like, nobody is like him at all.
Yeah.
Like, I have never met somebody like him before.
What does he do to show you that he cares?
Like, that he cares, he's always making sure that I ate and stuff, and we also had a cat or whatever, so he was always making sure the cat was okay and stuff, and he was always making sure his mom was okay too.
His mom?
Yes.
What's his mom's name?
Nikki.
Nikki?
Yes.
Okay.
The possibility that Caitlin was following Jonathan willingly didn't make her any safer. Their mission was clear. They had to find her fast. While the media ran the story of a teenage girl abducted by an adult with a disturbing past, the police kept certain details hidden. Officially, they were treating it as an abduction case, but behind closed doors, they knew more.
That you had been abducted. Okay.
Okay, well, I was never abducted, so
Okay.
I need to talk to whoever said that.
Why would they have said that?
I don't know, because I told my caseworker I was going with him, so that's a misfollowed part on her behalf.
Right. And so, once again, that's
I know, like, whenever I was, reading the newspapers after the Mexican police that they said, oh, fugitive is believed to be with runaway, and da-da-da, and I been posting off my Facebook account. I talked to my local police. I even have the phone records in my phone. I talked to my local police. They said that they never had me as missing. I said, why didn't they put it out that I went missing this long ago if I did go missing? I said, I'm not with a fugitive. I'm not abducted. I'm not missing. I'm not kidnapped. I'm about to be 18. I am literally what's it called in Ohio is emancipated because I was living in an independent living house. I was allowed to do whatever I wanted to do.
Okay.
Because that's what they wanted me to do until I turned 18 so that they didn't have to do more paperwork.
Right.
So that's what I put on my Facebook, so I don't understand why that still isn't.
Was Jonathan in trouble for something? Is that why they were saying he was a fugitive?
I don't know why they said he was a fugitive. I know that as soon as we got to the police here and we told them everything, they understood and they just said that he was going to be in jail for 2 days.
The public only saw one side of the story. The media only focused on the kidnapped teen, but the police knew Caitlin was not in danger. Police wanted to find them because they were the key to finding Nicole Jones. She was the missing person they want to find. This wasn't Jonathan's and Caitlin's first rodeo. They have been caught before. They've been dating for a long time, and the police knew about it. To understand Jonathan and Caitlin, we need to see how they met. Let's go back a year or so to the day when Jonathan found Caitlin on a dating website. Jonathan claimed it was Caitlin who approached him.
She sent me a message, so I was like, all right, cool, I'll entertain the idea of the message and see what this is. Probably going to be a scam. I say, oh, spend some time with me, it's going to call, how it always is on dating websites. Right. And then we started talking, and we hit it off.
They hit it off instantly, and soon enough came the day when they met face-to-face.
Do you remember, when last year you met her?
It was the beginning of October.
It was when you saw each other the first time?
Yes, actual face-to-face.
Okay. And then, so September, end of September, you found each other on Mingle too?
Yes.
Okay. And then how many times have you guys seen each other since, October?
Well, we were together for 2.5 weeks. I got arrested. Well, we both got picked up in Wood County for walking to a gas station at 5 o'clock in the morning to get something to drink and some cat food for a stray cat.
It was late at night on October 24th, 2022, when Ohio police noticed a pair that seemed out of place. Near a truck stop and roadside cafe, they spotted a young girl walking with a man who looked much older. The officers decided to check on them to see if everything was all right. As they approached, the girl seemed nervous and quickly lied about her name and birth date, but the officers were thorough and didn't back down. Eventually, she admitted her real name, Caitlin Coons, a 16-year-old runaway from a foster home. As the officers looked further into the situation, they discovered that Caitlin was supposed to be at the hospital and wasn't authorized to leave, but she and Jonathan had hatched a plan. Jonathan parked near the hospital, and Caitlin slipped away undetected. For Caitlin, it was another escape, but this time she was with someone whose intentions were dangerous. When the police examined Jonathan's phone, they made a disturbing discovery. What was more surprising was the fact that, when questioned, Jonathan admitted that he had plans to sell these images. After this discovery, Caitlin was immediately returned to state custody. Jonathan, meanwhile, was arrested on charges of endangering a child's life and creating and distributing inappropriate material involving a minor.
I found out about what happened. I was going to tell him. And he was like, okay. He was like, thank you. He was like, I don't think you understand how much it is when people think that I kidnapped you and done all this and da-da-da. And I was like,
Jonathan pled guilty, which seemed like a small victory for the police and those who wanted to see justice served. Yet, in a surprising twist, Jonathan was allowed to return home to await his trial. The court fitted him with a GPS tracker on his ankle to monitor his movements and prohibited him from going anywhere near Caitlin. Releasing him was a big mistake, and the authorities would soon realize that keeping Caitlin safe wasn't as straightforward as they'd hoped, because shortly afterwards, this whole debacle happened. Caitlin is in Mexico with Jonathan, all the while Nicole is missing. The media was in frenzy, urging the public to help find Caitlin. Locating Jonathan shouldn't nearly be as challenging if his ankle monitor was still strapped to Jonathan's leg, but Jonathan removed it before fleeing.
We took his ankle thing off and then we went on the run. And most of the way he was really struggling with it because it was his mom.
As the search widened, clues about Jonathan and Caitlin's location started coming together. Authorities in Arizona had reported seeing them driving Nicole's car.
Her son took her car, and he was stopped down in Arizona with a female, a 17-year-old that's a missing runaway.
Not only was Jonathan driving a vehicle registered to his missing mother, but he was now believed to be headed south, potentially even across the border. This confirmed suspicions that they were likely in Mexico. He was on the run for almost a week, and then on May 8th, Jonathan and Caitlin were spotted in northern Mexico, seemingly out of place.
Ciudad Juarez is the name of the town. It's one of the most dangerous cities in the entire world. Very deadly. And then Villa Amada is also a pretty dangerous area. It's what we call cartel country. So a little bit different, right?
The two were attempting to sell jewelry on the street.
You're going to go use the bathroom before, trying to sell jewelry.
Local police stopped to check on them, concerned that the man might be exploiting the young girl.
he was like, well, the 2 ages are really bad, da, da, da. And I was like, actually, I know it's actually legal in Mexico. As long, if the only time someone can be with someone above the age of 18 is if they're doing something sexually, then the person has to be 18 for someone to be dating somebody above 18. So I know that, and I told him that, and I was like, I know that, and we haven't been doing anything. I just came here with him, and he happens to be my boyfriend. And, you know, back in Ohio, they already knew about it, so.
Without knowing the full story, the Mexican authorities took them in.
They became aggressive with me for no reason out of nowhere. Like, they literally just started yelling at me, and I couldn't understand them. And I was like, so I started yelling back at them, and then they started hitting me, pushing me, so I started doing it back, and then that's when they threw me on the ground and put me in handcuffs.
Little did they know they had just taken into custody 2 American fugitives.
There's the son took the woman's car with the girlfriend. Okay, the girlfriend down there reported to her caseworker that they killed some lady and burned her house.
Oh, for God's sake.
So that's all we got, and he was on the phone, I think, with that detective in Canton. Why don't you hang out here with her and get that number, and then just come on over? Just wait with her and get her number.
Let me ask you this. Do you want her to call that guy?
Well, we'll call him.
So what happened was this dude was on bond for Wood
The son.
County. The son.
Right.
He was supposed to show up for sentencing or something like that.
Okay.
This morning, the Border Patrol stops him in Douglas, Arizona.
Okay.
With a 17-year-old that's a missing juvenile.
And she's the one reporting the murder and arson.
But they also said they burned the house down, too.
Right.
But obviously the house ain't burned down.
Right.
So right now...
So we have no idea where she is.
We don't.
As Mexican authorities worked to confirm Jonathan and Caitlin's identities, they searched the car. It didn't take long for officers to find a small amount of marijuana. Possession of marijuana is still against the law, and with that, Jonathan was arrested and taken to the local jail for further questioning. Since Caitlin was a minor and an American citizen, Mexican authorities handed her over to U.S. police in El Paso, Texas, right across the border.
I'm a special agent here in El Paso with the FBI, and this is my partner, Hannah Massa.
When officials searched Jonathan further, they discovered he had been driving his mother Nicole's Buick Encore SUV. But that wasn't all. He also had her social security card, identification, credit cards, and even her medical insurance card with him. The biggest piece missing in this case was Nicole Jones herself. She was still unaccounted for.
I don't know if they could have taken her, and if they were heading down to Arizona, already got what they wanted from her and ditched her somewhere. I'm hoping that's not the case.
It seemed they had strong suspicions about what might have happened to her, but with no physical evidence, they couldn't jump to conclusions. Instead, they decided to frame this situation as a kidnapping, a narrative that would rally the media and the public. After all, a story about a 33-year-old man kidnapping a 17-year-old girl and fleeing the country was bound to grab people's attention fast. Like everyone else, Caitlin was also watching the narrative built by the media. How could she let the media defame the love of her life like that? She decided to put forward her side of the story, and like any teenager, she started posting on social media. On May 6th, just 2 days before Jonathan was captured in Mexico, and Caitlin posted, "I am not on the run, so stop saying I am. I'm literally in Ohio, about to be 18, and by myself. I don't know any Jonathan. I'm a new person, not like before. I've been doing really well, and you guys are trying to say I ran when I didn't. Please stop lying for one last time. I'm just trying to enjoy my life, and this happens. Like, come on, stop the drama. I'm in Ohio and not missing." The very next day, on May 7th, she continued with, "I don't know any Jonathan Jones, and you guys are putting us together. Shame on you people. You're telling people there's danger when he isn't causing it, and that's not civil or fair anyway." Was she trying to distance herself from Jonathan, or maybe she was aware that the police were watching her social media? It seemed like she was planting seeds to suggest she was innocent. There's a chance she wanted to show her followers she was just a young girl trying to find her way, despite the chaos surrounding her. At first, Caitlin was viewed as a victim. On May 8th, she reached out on social media pleading to be brought back to America. The next day, she wrote, "I just got out of the shelter where I spent the night. I need someone to pick me up in Texas," but she had already been arrested and sent back to the U.S. on May 13th.
I came to Mexico because I was looking for a new beginning. And then out of nowhere, they started posting stuff. And that's when the Mexican police were also like, why is it showing all this? And I was like, I don't know. Like, they just now started putting things up like that.
But what was she doing in Mexico with a man like Jonathan? Well, it all started in April 2023 when Caitlin ran away again from the group home. This time, Jonathan was waiting for her, ready to pick her up from a restaurant. He took her to his house. What's surprising is that Nicole had no idea a young girl was living in the same house. Jonathan sneaked Caitlin into the house through the back, so his mother wouldn't see. Nicole had always disapproved of Jonathan's relationship with Caitlin, knowing well the age difference between them. If circumstances had been different, Caitlin would soon turn 18, and perhaps their relationship could be more open. But right now, things were complicated.
Well, when you're in the system, they get to decide what you can have, who you can contact, who you get to call and all that.
Okay, thank you.
But since I was about to be 18, I was about to be emancipated.
Caitlin hated Nicole's disapproval, but also seemed to enjoy the thrill of living with Jonathan. On social media, she posted, "Life is great when you have your own home in Ohio, if only his mother weren't present." Caitlin Coons had a life that few could understand. Growing up in the foster care system, she faced challenges that shaped her in ways most of us can't relate to. Her life was far from ordinary. The stories of struggles within the foster system are countless, and Caitlin's was one of those heartbreaking stories. During the interrogation, she completely disassociated herself from the text she sent to her caseworker.
So we do have some more questions. Tell me about this Facebook message that you sent.
What does this say?
It talks about 2 murders and some arsons.
This is when my ex hacked into my account. I can write you his name down here.
It's a China thing.
Investigators then informed her that Nicole was missing.
Okay, but like, you understand he has access to be able to hack it.
So let me finish.
Okay.
Right? It says you killed 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
We can't find Nikki. We don't know where she's at.
I didn't know she was missing.
And you guys have her car.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys had all of her credit cards.
I didn't know that he had her credit cards.
So how do you think it makes us think when there's that and a missing woman?
I didn't know she went missing. I misthinking. I used to think that, we killed her, but I didn't know that she went missing. So who killed her?
Okay, we don't know. We don't know. Maybe.
No, but I want to know who killed her because she was a nice mom.
Okay, so I'm saying we know hasn't been seen for a while, and this says we killed 2 people. We don't know that she's dead.
Okay, but you're putting that on me when I thought that she was doing perfectly fine and everything, and I told you I didn't send those messages. He's been able to hack to my account.
So what we're trying to figure out is what happened and where she could be.
I don't know where.
They believe Jonathan killed his mother for her money.
And if Jonathan is somehow associated with her going missing, or worse than that, her being dead.
He wouldn't do that. He cared about her. He made sure that me and her ate. Like, he made meals for us and was trying to get his mom to eat and stuff. Like, she wouldn't eat just because, like, her dentures would...
Then they tell her about Jonathan's confession.
And told the people that his mom is dead.
He did?
Sure did. So, Caitlin, we want to help you.
Right.
And we recognize that you're 17 and that you have a lot of life left. And we want to do what we can to help you.
Right.
And I mean that sincerely. I'm not being a cop.
He really did that?
Yes, yes.
He went to, like...
Came to a pawn shop here in El Paso, gave him the gun, and said his mom's dead.
Caitlin was completely shell-shocked.
I didn't know he did that. I didn't know there was a gun. I didn't know his mom was dead. Like, I don't know what you guys want me to say.
We just want the truth. We want to help. That's all. We just want to help you.
Caitlin then asked a peculiar question.
Caitlin, tell us what happened.
No, I'm being serious. I don't know what happened. That's the reason why I'm asking. Did you guys find her body?
That's why we need your help. Because you just told me that this woman was such a sweet lady that opened her doors to you. And I think she deserves to be remembered properly, right?
I didn't know she was dead, so I don't know where the body's at. And I didn't know that she was dead. Like, literally, when we left the house and everything, she was fine. Like, she was literally laying in bed on her phone.
The investigators busted her bubble. They saw her not as a victim, but a suspect in a murder case.
How old is Jonathan?
33.
Okay, so a 33-year-old and a 17-year-old who's been abducted from Ohio.
Caitlin was visibly shaken, but she was still denying any involvement.
Not only do we have the pawn shop owner's statement,
Investigators tried to caress her into a confession.
we have the gun now, and then we also have video surveillance putting you guys at the pawn shop.
I know we went to the pawn shop or whatever, but I didn't know about the gun. I knew that was, he wanted to pawn something to get money to be able to go into Mexico. That's all I knew, because they said that there's border where you have to pay to get in.
Right. We also have another pawn shop where I'm sure that you know other items were pawned off at that one too. And Hannah's right. So when we talk to him and he's going to try to point the finger at you.
Jonathan is still in Mexican custody, but very soon he will be on American soil.
Before he tells it for you.
It was on me. I told him that I gave him 5 hours.
Nicole was aware of what was happening. It didn't sit right with her. After all, 33-year-old men typically don't hang out with 17-year-old girls.
She just was not happy about that at all. She was like, no, as long as you're living under my roof, not happening, blah, 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 blah.
Caitlin snuck into Jonathan's house on April 11th. They lived under the same roof with his mother, Nicole. As Jonathan and Caitlin spent more time together in Nicole's house, things took a dark turn.
I'm not about to do that. Like, I love you. I want to be with you, and I don't care, like, what she has to say about it. Like, I'll straight up, hit her. Like, I don't care. And then, it was like a couple hours that he was gone for, that he was talking to his mom, apparently.
Just 8 days later, on April 19th, Caitlin allegedly gave Jonathan an ultimatum. Your mother.
If your mom tries to stop us from being together, then I will take action in my own hand. Not knowing exactly what she meant by that or anything, kind of a vague statement. Mm-hmm.
She told him he had 5 hours to do it. When that time passed without any action, she warned him, "You've got 1 more hour, then I'm taking over." But as the hours ticked by, Jonathan showed no signs of following through on her demands. It became apparent that he had no intention of harming his mother. Caitlin decided to take matters into her own hands, leading to a chain of events that would spiral out of control. Jonathan was sitting in the living room. His mom, Nicole, was in the kitchen, standing in front of the open refrigerator. Nicole had no idea there was a third person in her house, especially one with an intention to end her.
Okay, so it was a shock to her that you were in the house?
I'm pretty sure that's what shocked her whenever I went to go kill her.
Because she wasn't expecting you in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All I remember is that she dropped her flavor water on the ground.
Okay.
Caitlin moved quietly, trying to stay hidden. When she was close enough, she got hold of her neck. She then swung the rock and hit Nicole once, then again and again.
Is that what those scratches are on your arm?
I don't know what these are.
No. Remember?
A rock in the kitchen? In a kitchen, you usually find a rolling pin, maybe, or a frying pan, something more useful for cooking. But Caitlin didn't think about that. In her mind, it was about getting it done, no matter what she used. It's hard to imagine what Jonathan felt when he walked into the kitchen and saw his mother lying there.
Well, when I come back in, firstly, when I'm outside, I hear something. I don't know exactly what it was, but definitely sounded like a voice struggling.
The voice struggling?
Yeah, like somebody getting hit or something. It just, through the door and everything, it just sounded like you can't really tell exactly what they were saying or anything. So I hurried and finished my cigarette. When I went in,
You'd think he would try to help his mom or at least call the police, but no. Instead, Jonathan and Caitlin jumped into Nicole's car and drove off.
And I immediately went into shock and
They stopped at 2 different stores, buying a tarp and garbage bags. They knew they needed to get rid of evidence, and the biggest piece of evidence was Nicole. It's shocking to think that Jonathan would go shopping after what just happened.
Is it like a local Walmart? Bless you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. How far is the Walmart from her house?
I don't know.
Okay. And then you said you double wrapped all of that and then put it in her trash. And then the trash came out, was picked up the next day? Okay. What about, did you keep her in the same clothes?
Nicole had prepared meals for Jonathan his entire life. She'd given him shelter and love.
Toledo, Ohio. So I guess they live in Toledo. I don't know, it's like right on the thing of Toledo, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Thank you for giving me that. So, how did you get her body from the house to the dumpster?
We took her car.
Okay. Where did you put the body?
In the back seat.
In the back seat. So I'm not familiar with the car.
In the trunk.
In the trunk. Okay. So in the very back. Okay.
Then they drove to an apartment complex nearby and tossed her into a dumpster.
Okay. So then you put her body. Jonathan had to have helped you.
No, he did not. I got her all the way in, halfway, and then I was like, I need help, and then he couldn't do it, so I had to push her feet in. But it was all me.
Okay.
The only part he helped in any of what happened is driving to Mexico.
She emphasized Jonathan had no part in disposal of the body. Somehow, this part of the confession sounds a bit rehearsed. She tried really hard to distance him from any crimes.
Because he said that, to be able to get in Mexico, it needs to be an adult driving.
After the couple's arrest, the police found a backpack with red stains. The police obtained a search warrant for Nicole's house. During the search, they discovered what they believed was on the kitchen floor, especially near and under the refrigerator. Adding to the evidence were the pings from Jonathan's phone and his Apple Watch. They matched the couple's account of where they had disposed of Nicole's body. It seemed like they couldn't escape their actions or their trail.
Me to be able to touch him or anything, he just wanted to do his own thing in the back of the car and like the back seats away from me.
Why didn't he call the cops then?
I think the reason why he didn't call the cops is because when we got arrested back in Wood County, back in, I think it was October or whatever, Wood County is like a really bad county for your charges, like the charges that he got. He got a charging for kidnapping and
Stuff you?
What? Yeah, and they wouldn't let me testify or say anything because of my age, and I kept telling them, like, I will tell them.
This led to an obvious question. Why didn't they just run away? Why kill an innocent woman just because she disapproved of their relationship?
And you loved him.
It didn't make sense. The couple was found with Nicole's credit and debit cards along with her car.
Oh, so 3 or 30?
3.
Where did you do that? Where did that happen?
At like a whole bunch of different banks of ATMs.
Okay. Was it all in Ohio or was it?
It was as we were passing through every state.
Okay.
Clearly, they needed money for their escape plan, and that need drove them to commit an unimaginable act.
And I think yes, yeah.
Yes. Did you stay in a hotel? So you did stay in the car the whole time?
While all this was happening, Caitlin texted her caseworker at her group home. It claimed that Caitlin had killed 2 people. At that time, Caitlin and Jonathan were in Arizona, trying to make their way into Mexico. They were briefly detained by the police in Arizona, but released soon after. We now know the first person she killed was Nicole, but who was the second victim?
In a drive-by, I don't know who it was. Also committed 2 arsons in Arizona in the middle of nowhere. I don't know what that was either.
The second victim was a man from Arizona.
Okay. I tried talking her out of it. She said that if I couldn't accept that she wanted to do that, then she didn't want to be together. And me at this point, not having anybody else in the world, only having her, was like, all right, let's go for a drive. I purposely went down like neighborhoods and stuff that people would not have been out at that time.
Your time?
It was 5 or 6 in the morning.
He was just an innocent bystander waiting at a bus stop.
And then you guys just took off. Okay.
As Caitlin and Jonathan drove by, Caitlin fired at him. But there was no drive-by death reported in Arizona in that time frame.
And I don't think she hit anybody.
What did she say after?
I don't know what happened. I just remember pulling out the gun out of the window and shooting.
Was it a male, woman, old, young?
I think it was a woman.
Do you remember how old she looked?
She looked old and she had glasses and she was she had a vest on.
Okay. Did you see her fall to the ground? No? Are you sure that it hit her?
I was so quick to get out of there because of the loud shot.
Were you in the car? Where in the car were you?
I was in the driver's seat.
You were in the driver's seat?
Yeah.
Luckily, she missed, and the man was unharmed. It all sounds so random. Investigators were intrigued to understand the motive behind the mayhem. In the text message, Caitlin also claimed of arson.
A flammable sprayer or whatever, I lit it up with a torch and threw it out the window and it blew up in the grass. And then I also took a pair of my socks and I drenched them in the stuff and I threw it out.
Okay. Did it hit somebody's property or was it like a field or a house?
It was public property.
Okay. So not like a building, it was just open fields. Was it on the side of the road? Where was it?
One was by a movie theater.
Okay.
And then the other, I don't know where the other one was at.
What was the flammable thing that you used? Do you remember?
It was stuff you use for a cookout.
Like a spray? Like gas? Lighter fluid? Okay. What made you do that? Okay, and that's okay.
Then came the time when Jonathan Jones was finally handed over to the U.S. authorities. There is no video recording available of his interview with the police. Snippets of the audio were made public. Jonathan was very uncooperative with the investigators and immediately asked for his lawyer. But the investigators had an ace up their sleeve. Just before they left the room, they revealed that they have CCTV footage of him selling Nicole's gun and several of her belongings at a Texas pawn shop. They also told him what the owner of the shop reported. Investigators left him brewing. After his mother's murder, a cross-country road trip in a stolen car, and 2 nights spent in a Mexican jail, Jonathan finally breaks down, as the details from the Texas pawn shop come back to haunt him.
I decided that I'd rather talk to you guys instead of wait for a lawyer about the mom thing.
So I'm gonna let you kind of know the topic of discussion, so I'm gonna let you say what you want to say, and then if we have questions, we'll ask questions.
I was trying to cover for Caitlin by telling you I didn't know about my mom.
Okay.
He came out clean about the ultimatum and described how he found out that Caitlin killed Nicole.
At this point, I sit down at the kitchen table and I'm looking at her and I'm like, what did you do? And she straight up told me she stopped her from being in the way of us being together.
The brutality Nicole had to face was evident from the blood splatter. He confessed how they had to clean everything and how they dumped Nicole's body. The contents of that dumpster were taken the next day by waste disposal to a landfill in Michigan. After the couple fled to Mexico, time passed, and the chances of recovering Nicole were very slim. Her body wrapped up is now lost in a landfill somewhere. Landfills are constantly in motion, with decomposition happening all around. Every time a big trash truck empties its load, it's like throwing everything into a blender. The massive earth movers don't have rubber tires. They have spiky wheels that churn and mix everything up. The chances of finding something in the middle of all the trash are next to none. Everything has been pulverized, mixed, and lost. Caitlin found herself facing trial as an adult. If found guilty, she could face severe consequences. While minors can't be executed, she could still get a lengthy sentence, ranging from 25 years to life behind bars. Jonathan, even though he didn't personally kill his mother, faced the same charges as Caitlin. He also has previous charges from before their escape and is now looking at robbery charges. His bail was set at a staggering $1 million. In her first interview, Caitlin Coons claimed she was solely responsible for Nicole's murder.
All on her own as well. A claim the state would have proven was false and done in part.
Prosecutors argued that Caitlin's statement was part of a plan between her and Jonathan Jones.
Mr. Jones was asking Caitlin to take full responsibility for the murder, to receive a lesser sentence since she was a juvenile, in the hopes that he would then also receive a lesser sentence.
Nearly a year later, Caitlin's story changed. This time, she placed most of the blame on Jonathan. Caitlin claimed she heard Nicole Jones scream and gurgle, and she waited for the ordeal to end. Afterward, she saw Jonathan with his hands around his mother's neck, asking for her help. She confessed that she helped him.
To which she complied, of the belief that finishing Nicole Jones's life or ending it would bring them closer together as a couple.
Caitlin admitted she gave Jonathan the ultimatum. Both Caitlin and Jonathan later gave statements where each tried to distance themselves from the critical moment of Nicole Jones's death.
And that they did this for a reason, because they committed out these acts together.
The evidence provided in court also included letters and calls between Caitlin and Jonathan from jail, where they expressed their love for each other. In one of these jail calls, Jonathan incriminated himself.
And one in which Jonathan Jones repeatedly directs Caitlin Coons to continue admitting to the murder so that the state would not think that he was the mastermind behind this crime, possibly giving him a lesser sentence.
The evidence against them was clear. It was a premeditated murder, planned and executed by the both of them. Eventually, both Caitlin and Jonathan pled guilty to the murder of Nicole Jones, leading to sentences of life in prison. The lives of Caitlin Coons and Jonathan Jones tattered in a way neither could have imagined. A series of choices, each more reckless than the last, led them both into a life they can't escape from, a future spent behind bars. Thank you for joining us. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Let us know your thoughts below. Your perspectives help bring these stories to life. Until next time, take care and stay curious.